Brenton Avdulla is fast becoming a name to remember in the jockey ranks in Australia. He's just come from a brilliant season in Sydney that saw him just pipped in the Premiership behind Hugh Bowman. He rode a Group 1 winner on Lasqueti Spirit in the VRC Oaks, and at the moment he's enjoying a little bit of downtime here at the beautiful Sofitel on the Palm Jumeirah. He made the mistake though of telling us that he was here, so we've come along to meet him. Thanks for sparing us the time, Brenton, because you're here on holiday. And tell us, why Dubai? Why did you want to come here?
Yeah, look, Dubai's sort of always been something that I'd sort of like to get to, whether it's be the racing or go to Meydan and that, but just fit it in. I was with the girlfriend and we went to the Maldives, and Dubai seemed to suit the itinerary to get back here and get home, and yeah, we spent 5 nights here. It's been very hot, but no, it's been a good trip.
You'd like to come back here and ride one day, maybe?
Yeah, it'd be good. Obviously, everything's done very well here. Obviously the malls, the hotels, and sort of looking at the racing, you know, from the TV, it looks pretty amazing. So it'd be definitely a goal to come back and ride for sure.
You haven't been down to have a look at Meydan?
No, haven't had the chance yet. I suppose this time of year it's very hot and everything's probably, all the horses are probably either shut up shop or in the aircon boxes. So look, you know, if we come back to November, December in another year, we might give it a go.
Because of course you don't get much of a break, do you, in Australia? So you've got to grab these opportunities for holiday while you can.
No, we're probably very different to a lot of other countries. We don't have an off season. Basically the 31st of July is the end of the season, and the next day you bang on start of the season again. So it'd be great if we could have had an off season. So we just take time off when you're liking away, and you just sort of work your way around the carnivals. Whether it's the Sydney Autumn Carnival or it's the Melbourne Spring Carnival, and we're just about to head into the spring now. So basically when I get back home, it's straight into it.
You had a great season. It must be a bit frustrating you were just pipped in that championship.
Yeah, so the last 3 seasons have been really good. Been able to sort of gradually progress through, and sort of 4 or 5 seasons ago I wasn't even in the top 5 in Sydney, and been progressively sort of getting better. In the last few seasons I was able to finish top 3, and sort of this season obviously I finished 2nd, and just got pipped by Huey, which is he's obviously rated the world's best jockey at the moment on those rankings. So it's yeah, look, it was a season where I was very happy with, very consistent for 11 months of the season, and just the last month got me. So not very happy, and onwards for the next season.
And your strike rate's very high. Am I right in thinking that's improved year on year?
Yeah, look, obviously opportunities is a massive thing. Sort of obviously riding for the biggest stables helps, and I suppose last 2 seasons have just been probably that. Being able to have a good work ethic and riding for the right stables at the right time, and you're riding the winners. And when you keep riding winners, winners breeds winners in a way. Every owner and every trainer wants a winner. So in our field of sport, if you're not winning races, it makes things very difficult. So if you're always on the ball and always riding it well, it does make your job easier. And like I said, it's had a very good season, had a Group 1 winner, and everything flows from then on. So hopefully we can be back into it, start of the season, because in a way I haven't ridden a winner for 2 weeks when I get back home, and everyone forgets about you, so you just got to be back on the ball.
You mentioned you've got the link with Godolphin. That actually goes back quite a long way, doesn't it? You're linked with James Cummings. You worked previously for Anthony. Yeah,
it's looking in a way I was apprenticed to sort of Anthony, and Anthony Cummings obviously probably 6 years ago, and yeah, his son now James is in control of Godolphin, so it's pretty amazing. And I remember with James, years ago, and now he's been a great trainer in his own right. Obviously had Group 1 winners, and now he's taken control of the massive ship in Australia, and yeah, I'm sure he'll do well.
How do you think he'll get on? I mean, it's quite a high pressure job, but as you proved, as you said, he's got the pedigree for it. He's got a lot of experience.
Oh, I think he'll be fine. Look, he's in a way he's only young to be in control of such a massive operation, but I think he's got the score. He's getting the scores on the board already with winners. He's got a good idea of all the horses. He knows them pretty well, and I'm sure. Look, I think he's obviously trained a Victoria Derby winner and plenty of other 2-year-old winners. So I think he fits the criteria very well, and I'm looking forward to hopefully riding for him.
And you've had quite a lot of success for Godolphin. Do you enjoy riding for them and putting on those famous blue silks?
Yeah, love it. Look, I suppose a few years ago we never had the Godolphin blue in Australia. We always had the sort of the maroon and what with the Dali, and never used to sort of ride for him. And when it got taken over with John O'Shea and the Royal Blue come in, and yeah, Henry Plumtree and John O'Shea, they were able to give me a good go there. And from now it's everything's sort of changing and evolving, and very lucky to continue ride for him sort of year out, and without any sort of fixed retainers or anything like that, just being able to get the opportunities at the right time and hopefully get the job done. So I think last season they would have been probably my main stable for support, them and Chris Wallace. So it does make my job a lot easier when you're riding the well-bred horses and getting the job done on them.
They really are. And you mentioned last year you had a huge Group 1 success on Les Gretty Spirit. Bit of a surprise? Yeah,
definitely a surprise. So look, I didn't really feature in the spring at all last year. Didn't have sort of much to go for. Nothing sort of fell my way. And Oaks Day was just one of those days where my manager thought, look, we can go out and ride this filly. I'm not saying she'll win, but she should run sort of top 5 or 6. And she was the only filly in the race that had a run at the trip. And we went out there and rode her accordingly. We thought that the game plan was that if we strung them along and made it a true staying test, that 3/4 of the field won't stay, and that's how it sort of panned out. I sort of bowled along at a good speed and went for home before the bend, and every screen up the straight I kept looking at, and she kept staying 4 and 5 in front, and it was a day I'll sort of always never forget.
Usain Bolt was there?
Yeah, that was pretty surreal too. So he was the main face at the Oaks Carnival, and so after the race we were able to get photos with Usain, and it was pretty special. I've got a couple photos, so I'll always hold on to them.
Did you watch him the other night in London?
I seen him the other night. Yeah, I love Usain. Seen his little documentary and all that sort of stuff. So it's just amazing what he's done. I think there was another thing I seen on Twitter the other day where they had the fastest 100-metre times and everyone who had been done by drugs, and I think if you took everyone away, that was just all the drugs, he'd had the top 10 quickest times in the world from year after year. So he's an amazing athlete, and obviously someone everyone has to look up to.
Just going back to that ride in the Oaks, it was known as a brave ride. Do you think you are quite a brave jockey, quite a daring rider?
I'm always one to sort of think outside the square, if that's what you mean. Happy to try things. It's always difficult, I suppose, in the little races, you're always happy to sort of try something, because, and especially when you're not on probably a horse that's well in the market. I suppose there's no real pressure on you, so you're happy to try little things, but I suppose the big decisions come in the Group 1s when you try something out of the box, because obviously the whole world's watching you, and if it doesn't pay off, you can look like a bit of a goose. And that was just one that I had the backing of the stable behind me to go out there and do it, and I had the backing of, obviously I thought I had the right horse underneath me to do it. So I was full of confidence. It's not always easy to do in the big ones, but I had the full confidence, and I've usually got good confidence in my riding. It does make it easier when you're riding winners. When you're not riding winners, you sort of tend to sort of seize up a little bit, but when things are going good, you enjoy your riding a lot more.
You must have a lot of confidence, because wasn't your first ever Group 1 ride a winner as well?
I'm not sure if it was my first Group 1 ride, but it would have been very early. I had a filly called Secret Admirer, and I got beat on her about a month earlier in a maiden, and she ran a couple of weeks later, she won, and then she ran in a stakes race, and Graham Begg just said to me, "Oh, just let her get back and run on," and she ran on, and I think she ran 2nd or 3rd and looked unlucky, and when I come back in, he said, "You can ride her in the Group 1 next week," and I was just like, wow, like I think I was only 17 or 18 at the time, and she come from last and rounded up a Darley horse and a Gay Waterhouse horse and swamped down the outside and won the Group 1, and that was my first one, and it was a pretty special moment. And 12 months later, she come back and won the Epsom, and she was a really good mare for me. Placed a lot of times in the big Group 1s, and she only won 2 of them, but I think she had 8 or 9 placings in the big Group 1s, and she was a good mare for me.
Did that change things in terms of your profile, helping you to get better rides?
For sure, and especially with Graham Begg. He only had a small team, but he had a good select of horses, and I got another Group 1 winner out of his stable that season as well with I Love This City, who now stands at stud in Australia, and he won the Randwick Kiddies. We had horses like Cabernet, Palazzo de Crystal, who were all just genuine stakes class mares, and for someone who was, I think even when I rode the Group 1 winner, I was still an apprentice, so for someone that was coming out of their apprenticeship and being riding regularly in the Group 1s and getting results, it did make the transition very, very easy for me. So things did dry up a couple of seasons later when just sort of lack of opportunities, but being able to get the ball rolling a bit lately and makes things a lot easier.
You're also quite well known for some big celebrations and got you into trouble a few times in the past, but I was thinking about it. I mean, it's great for the sport that you do that. Is that something that you're going to have to try and change, or are you going to keep?
No, look, I never go out there with preconceived ideas of what's going to happen or what I'm going to do or anything like that. Look, I couldn't have thought about anything for the Oaks. She was 150 to 1, and it was just something that look, it come to hand very late at the 50-metre mark. And even when I won the Group 1 on Secret Admirer, the first one I didn't do anything because I was just gobsmacked, and then when I won the Epsom on her, I got up in the irons again. But it's just certain things. Emotion's a big part of it. And sometimes with a couple of them, you know, even when I won on I Love This City, he was probably the first time I rode a short price favourite in a Group 1. So sort of the week leading into the Epsom, Secret was about 15 to 1, and there's no real pressure on you. You can enjoy the week and enjoy it. When I Love This City was favourite for the Guineas, and I remember I didn't sleep all week. I was just nervous and thinking, and so basically when I went past the line on him, it was more relief than anything. And then you get back to like with Lasquetti, she was just more raw emotion. It was just excitement for winning the Crown Oaks on a, you know, on the big stage. I was obviously a Melbourne boy, and to go back home to Flemington and ride a Group 1, it's always a big thing to ride a Group 1 during the 4-day carnival.
Is that the main aim for you now, to ride more Group 1 winners, or will you be really concentrating on that Premiership?
Look, the Premiership was never really a goal at the start of the season last year. It was always just to try and stay consistent and try and get a Group 1 winner. I wanted to finish top 3 in the metro area, which I did. Finished second, and wanted to ride a Group 1 winner, which I did. So when I get back to Sydney, you've got to sit down with the manager and we work out a goal for this season. But we're thinking it's probably just something similar. Just to stay consistent in the top 3. It's very hard to win a Premiership without the backing of a #1 stable. And that probably just found me out late last year. I sort of I was no one's #1 rider, and it just got me late in the season when Huey had the pick of the rides. So until anything changes, it's always going to be difficult to be there, but I can keep turning up and doing my best. But I'm tipping the goal just to be consistent in the big races around Australia, and it could lead to something over the world.
You're doing so well, obviously, at home at the moment, but if the opportunity to ride abroad did arise, I mean, a lot of your compatriots done very well in Hong Kong, Singapore. Yeah,
I'd love to. I suppose if you go through anywhere and look in the top 10 riders in Sydney, where it's Huey, Blake, Tommy, Timmy Clark, Ty Anglin, Karen. Like Karen's going for the jockey challenge. I think what's the one coming up soon. He's going to England for, and I suppose you got a lot of riders in the top 10 there in Sydney that they could dominate anywhere in the world with the right opportunities. And I think Hong Kong's been a good breeding ground for that. Now Sam Clipton's over there and he's going well, and yeah, I think we've got one of the strongest jockey pools going around, and it just shows. So I'd love to get an opportunity over the other side of the world, whether it be Hong Kong or whether it be little stints in England or obviously Dubai. So it's just where the world racing is, and yeah, it'd be something definitely on the bucket list.
I think you rode in America a few years ago.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go for to Arlington Park and had one ride in the Secretariat Stakes for Australian Bloodstock, which they've been big supporters of mine in Australia, and very lucky to ride for them. Obviously, they've had Protectionists win the Melbourne Cup, and yeah, they buy a lot of European horses, and they do go very well in Australia. And yeah, they were lucky enough to buy a horse there that ran 4th in the Secretariat Stakes, and Holland Rule actually beat me that day, and we didn't know how good he was, and then obviously he's come out and taken the world by storm ever since.
So America, like Blake Shinn's done, would that be something you'd consider?
Yeah, that would be something on the list for sure. It's a very different sort of way of riding. A lot of speed in their races. Where sort of the race I rode in Arlington, there was probably full of a lot of European riders, so it was run a little bit differently. Even though Highland Reel did probably lead and bowl us along, it's yeah, it is a different way of going, and definitely different to Australian racing, where we sort of sit and sort of sprint in a lot of our races.
And away from racing, you've got a restaurant.
Yeah, well, it's just basically finished up. I did have a bar, a restaurant. It was there for sort of 5-6 years. I was a part of, and in Australia, obviously, we don't have an off season, so it was just a way of out for me in a way. You know, Saturday after the races, if you had a bad day, you could go there and get your mind off things, or if you had a good day, you can go there and celebrate. And or even during the week, it's I was by myself for a bit, and I couldn't cook very well, so it was always easy to go down to the restaurant, and the chef would whip me up something very nice. So it was a good look. It was a good venture for me, and obviously my business partner, and it's come to the end. So we never know, there might be something else coming up in the near future.
But beyond that, you're very young, plenty of years left in the game, hopefully.
Yeah, sort of when I started my apprenticeship there at 16, I was probably this tall at the moment, 168 centimetres and 53 kilos, and everyone sort of said to me that I probably didn't have long in the saddle, and yeah, sort of going strong now. I'm 26 now, and enjoying my riding, getting the right opportunities, and yeah, don't know where it'll get to. Don't know if I always want to be one of those ones who's riding at 55 or older. But look, I'm enjoying my riding, and I'll continue riding as much as I enjoy it. So it's not something you can do every day of the week, and just I suppose the weight's the biggest issue. It does grab you, and look, I know now I'll be a bit heavy, and I'm feeling good, but yeah, I'm not looking forward to sort of getting back home and stripping the weight off pretty quickly. But it's just a way of life, and as long as I enjoy it, I'll keep doing it.